Hello everyone, welcome back to Eat Right with Ebubokwisia. Today I have here with me a very special guest. I'm actually honored to have her here because she's one of my MPhil nutrition lecturers. I'll leave her to introduce herself.
Thank you very much. My name is Dr. Esi Edu-Afewa. I am with the Nutrition and Food Science Department at the University of Ghana.
Thank you very much, Doc, for coming. Today we'll be touching on malnutrition. We want to know the strategies to prevent and also to treat children. Doc, before we go to the main questions, what's malnutrition for the audience?
Okay, wonderful. Thank you for the opportunity to be here.
You're welcome.
So, malnutrition is a term that really relates to unhealthy diets. And that those unhealthy diets can be in the form of not getting enough of what the body requires for growth and development, or getting too much of what the body needs. In children, when children are not receiving sufficient what we call energy, food energy and nutrients for growth, then it shows up physically. Their dimensions become smaller, and so children may be underweight in the sense that they weigh less than they should for their age, or they could be shorter. They don't reach their full growth potential, so they could be shorter than we expect them to be for their age. Besides that, there's also if they are not getting sufficient of certain micronutrients like iron, then they have some deficiencies in those things. And then on the other side of an unhealthy diet is maybe eating too much energy, so that you have excess body weight, and that is also a problem when you're overweight or obese, because it has health consequences. So both the under, not getting enough, and getting too much have health consequences. So that's malnutrition.
Okay. Doc, please, what are some of the effects of malnutrition on the physical and cognitive development of children?
So, like I mentioned when explaining malnutrition, when children don't get sufficient food, sufficient nutrients, a healthy diet, then it can diminish their size physically. They can be shorter than they are supposed to be. They can be thinner than they are supposed to be, and those have consequences. They also need adequate nutrition for brain development. And so cognitive function, which has to do with intelligence, reasoning, ability to reason, is related to brain development. So when they don't get sufficient nutrients, that is also, brain development also is affected. And then that means that it affects their cognitive development, which means that they may have difficulty learning, achieving success in school, and then that also then cascades into later life. On the other side, if they are having excess energy intake and they are overweight, obese, then they can, enter adulthood bigger than they should be, and experience the consequences of overweight and obesity associated with non-communicable diseases like diabetes, hypertension, heart disease, and so forth.
Okay, Doc. So most of the time, people lose sight of the essence of a mother or someone pregnant having her nutrition right. I would want us to touch on the role nutrition play in maternal nutrition, that is pre, during, and even after the childbirth, the role it plays.
Okay. It's the mother's nutrition is so critical for herself and also for the child. A woman must enter into pregnancy healthy, adequately nourished, because a lot of things begins right from conception. We have learned, children's development right when they start. From conception, it starts. Brain development especially, we have been very concerned about brain development because it starts early. And most of brain development happens, within the first 2 years of life and before. And so a mother's nutrition from the beginning, entering into pregnancy, prenatally, and then whilst pregnant. Another thing that we have learned, apart from one of the things that happens affecting the physical growth, is that research has shown that children can adapt to the conditions of the womb. And so when a mother is deprived nutritionally, not only does it affect the child physically, they may be born small for their age, maybe shorter than they are supposed to be, but scientists have shown that the fetus adapts to the conditions in the womb. So if the condition in the womb is deprived, then it means that the baby adapts to deprived conditions. When that baby is born, though they may be born small because they are deprived, scientists have shown that later in life, such a person is more likely to become overweight and obese and experience non-communicable diseases because they have been conditioned to deprivation. And so when later on things get better and they have access, their body responds differently and they're more likely to be overweight and obese. So the mother's nutrition is both affecting herself and as well as her child in the immediate term and also in the longer term into adulthood. The other side is when a mother is breastfeeding. We have seen that breast milk, the composition of breast milk, primarily depends on the mother's stores and not necessarily her intake. And so a healthy mother while lactating is crucially important because the breast milk the nutrients for the breast milk is coming from her stores, calcium from her bones, her teeth, and everything. So it means that she must have adequate nutrition to maintain herself. There have been, when I say this, and some people I've read of cases where a mother during breastfeeding loses her teeth.
Yes.
Because of the nutrient that is being taken out of her stores to produce the breast milk. So the woman's health and nutrition are very, very important for herself, for her child.
For the child. Doc, I would want us to touch on what the first steps should be in treating a malnourished child.
That's quite a broad question. Well, first of all, you have to know that the child is malnourished. I think one of the first steps is to understand the situation and know what the problem is. Yes, malnutrition is caused by unhealthy diets, but it can also be caused by disease or illness or infection. And so we have to understand what the situation is. I want to take us back a little bit. When I said that you have to understand that somebody is malnourished. When we talk of malnutrition, a lot of people, the first thing that comes to mind is kwashiorkor, marasmus, seeing skinny baby and everything. But actually, a lot of the malnutrition that we have, even in Ghana, is not one that you see. It's something that we call hidden hunger.
Yes.
Because it's mild, it's moderate, there's no physical signs, but it's still dangerous, causing problems in the child. And so, first of all, you need to recognize that you have a malnutrition. I mean, how many people know that maybe your child, that's not the height they're supposed to be, maybe they're supposed to be taller? And so that is why antenatal care is also very important, because you get opportunity for the child to be weighed, to be monitored, to see whether there's something going wrong. So once we understand what the issues are, then we can address this. If there's illness, it needs to be addressed. But nutritionally, we need to understand how a child is being fed. When children are very young, the recommendation is that they receive exclusive breastfeeding for the first 6 months of life, and then they receive complementary foods. Those complementary foods need to be of adequate quality and of adequate quantity to support the child's growth. So I would say the first step is know what the problem is,
yes,
and then be able to address it.
Yes. I would want us to touch on the roles of micronutrient supplements. Yes, the role it plays in treatment of malnutrition in children.
in children, it's very important. Micronutrients like iron, calcium, etc. Some of these micronutrients, while they are widespread in food, some foods are richer sources and better sources of them than others. So things like iron, calcium, the animal source foods or animal proteins provide a better source of those things. But a lot of times, young children in our part of it don't get sufficient quantities of these animal proteins. And so the diet is largely plant-based, which is not a bad thing. It's a good thing. We are in an era where we are promoting plant nutrition, but they also contain what we call anti-nutrients. Fiber is a good thing, but it's also hinders absorption of certain micronutrients, and there are other factors in food that may prevent absorption of certain micronutrients. So when children are fed a predominantly plant-based diet, it's usually very difficult for them to get certain micronutrients into their
Body.
in the diet to absorb it, and so supplementation then becomes useful. There's been some interesting research that has been done that has looked at the diets that we give to young children. In Ghana, a lot of times we start with cocoa and that kind of thing, and they will say add fish powder, add soy. There's been some research that has looked at all these, porridges and even enriched porridges, and that shows that even when we enrich it, children do not get sufficient iron and some other micronutrients that they need. So even with all that advice, and so that is where supplementation then becomes very important, because then it can help to address the gap, the nutrient gap that is available in the diet, that is existing in the diet.
Awesome. I would want us to address this. Most people would want to be on supplements for a long time. What's your take on it? Should they take it for a while they are taking the food rich in the micronutrients is trying to correct?
So, I'm not an advocate for taking micronutrients when you don't need it. For young children's diets, I think that it becomes very crucial. But as children grow and have more access to a wider variety of food, and then I think that we need to work hard to improve our diets. Sometimes the supplement may be needed intermittently. Young girls, for instance, because of menstruation, may need iron, folic acid supplementation to address the issue of blood loss and the loss of nutrients through that channel. But we need to work to improve the quality of our diet. We need to have healthy diets, and that healthy diets means eating a wide range of food, having a diverse diet. We have so many different food groups. In Ghana, we tend to, when you ask people about what they ate, they will tell you about the starch components. They'll tell you, I ate fufu, I ate banku. Rarely do people think about, it's after you probe a little, then they'll say, oh, I ate it with. And it's like this other component is relegated, it's not as important. And when you look at the size of our plates, you will see that the carbohydrate component is so huge.
Yes.
But carbohydrate is just giving us energy, okay? But the things that we eat, whether it's the vegetables, the proteins and everything, there is where a lot of micronutrients and other nutrients fall in. So we need to promote a healthy diet. I wouldn't say that everybody needs supplementation indefinitely, but some people may need it more than others, depending on access to food and what they have available to them.
Thank you very
much. I'm not sure
much.
That answers your question.
It does. Viewers, you've heard Doc. In as much as you want to take some supplements, you have to take your nutrition very, very serious, because you can't be on the supplements forever. Doc, please, can you give us any takeaway before we wrap up?
My takeaway is let's diversify our diet. One of the challenges with our nutrition is eating a monotonous diet, eating the same things over and over again. Let's branch out and try new things. Let's increase our vegetable and fruit intake. And as I talk about vegetables and fruits, I have to caution our audience about hygiene and sanitation because of how they are sold. We need to be careful that what we're eating, when we're talking about healthy food, we're not only talking about the nutrition of it, the nutrient content of it, but we're also talking about the safety of it. It must be safe and wholesome. So my encouragement is let's branch out, let's eat a diverse diet to be healthy.
Thank you very much for coming, Doc. Viewers, it has been Eat Right with Ebubokosia. I hope you are enjoying this. Kindly share with others to learn more, and also keep your comments coming because it encourages us. See you in the next episode.